Today we will see the methods in Java. What are methods in Java? Methods are very similar to functions in Python. Okay, this is our usual way of writing a Java program. When we have a method, the methods can be divided into two basic categories. I will explain to you today the static methods. For example, main is a static method inside our program. Okay, similar to this one, we can write other static methods inside our program. Let's say we want to write a method which returns an integer value. Let's say method 1, and assume that it takes two integer values, int n1, int n2. It does something and returns something. So from main program, from the main function or method, we can call this other method, static method. How do we call it? Since it returns an integer value, at some time we can have, for example, something like int n is equal to call the method 1 with, for example, 10 and 4, for example. Okay. Here, this method 1 is a static method which requires two integer parameters. So here we are calling method 1 using two integers, and it does something, and it then assume that it returns some value, return blah 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 something. The returned value here, the value that is returned, comes and replaces the method call. Okay, and then here we can, for example, say system.out.println, blah 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 blah, and in the meantime also we can print the n. Okay, we can have something like that. I'm putting just this because there may be other things that I want to print here, or I can just make it more simple for the time being. So what happens here when the method name and arguments are given? This goes, the control goes to the first line of the method, and the value of n1 becomes the first parameter here. My first parameter is n1. My first argument is 10. My second parameter is int n2. And my second argument is 4. So 10 goes and replaces n1. The value of n1 becomes 10. The value of n2 becomes 4. Assume that I want to do, for example, something like int k is equal to n1 multiplied by n2. Okay, that's just some computation and return k. So what happens using this n1 and n2? Some computation, some operation will be done inside the method. It may be 1 line or it may be 100 line. This can be much longer than this. Assume that we have, for example, k is equal to k multiplied by k minus 1. Let's put parentheses here and return k. Okay, we have some operation done that uses the parameters, these parameters, and based on the parameters, some result is found, and the result is returned. Since the returned thing here is the variable k, and k is an integer variable, then the method should be of integer type, because this method returns an integer. K is an integer, therefore the type of the method must be specified. So when we define a method, a static method, we write public static or private static. I usually use private static methods. Why? What is the difference between public and private? If I define a private method in a class, only other methods in the class can call this method. But if it is public, Okay, then I can have another program. Let's copy this, Control C. Inside another program, let's go here and let's draw some line. I have another program, program 2, and here it is possible to call the prg.method1 when it is public. When this is public, this method1 is available to other programs, okay? But if it is private, only it can be called only inside this PRG. The difference between public and private, when it is private, it is only available to the class. When it is public, it is available to other classes. Okay, it is available also here. This is the difference between public and private. For the time in this course, we will use private static methods. So it's not possible to use this one here. Let's erase this. Okay, let's go here. So when we call a method, if the method returns something, it is either at the right-hand side of an assignment, or it could be, for example, something like this. If method 1 with parameters 7 and 6 is greater than 20, for example, okay? We can also use it inside a logical expression. Or I can have get the value returned by method blah blah and divide it by 2. So here we have an expression, and part of this expression is the method call. We are calling the method with values 10 and 4. 10 is the first argument, 4 is the second argument. Therefore, 10 goes and replaces n1, or n1 gets the value 10, and n2 gets the value 4. They get the corresponding values, and based on these values of n1 and n2 coming from the method call, the body of the method is executed. It finds something and returns that something. We can also have void methods that returns nothing. So we can also classify methods into two categories: methods that return something, integer, double, an object, etc., etc., or they can return nothing. Let's write, for example, another one. I want to have this. I will write another method, a private method. Let's call this method 2. And assume that this only has one parameter. What it will do, it will print all numbers from 1 to n. So here I can have a for loop for int j is equal to 1, as long as j is less than or equal to n, the parameter, and is here for this method, n comes from the parameter, so we don't need to declare it. It's already declared as parameter. Whatever the value of n is coming to the method, do this j plus plus, increase this, and let's put here that. Of course, it doesn't return anything, but instead we have system.out.print n plus 1 space, for example. So what we do, and at the end, let's put something like this, Control C, after the for loop, assume that I want to go to the next line, print ln alone will produce a new line at the output. Here what we are doing, with the values of j start from 1. As long as j, the value of j is less than or equal to the parameter n, we increase j and execute inside. What we do, of course, this is not n, this is j. We print the value of j and a space after it. on the same line. It's not println, it is only print, so it doesn't go to the next line, it stays on the same line. Therefore, this doesn't produce multiple lines, this only produces on a single line, and it stays on the same line. And at the end, when the for loop is finished, we print a new line, it goes to the next line. So as a whole, this only produces one line at the output, one complete line at the output with numbers. If n is 5, it will print 1 space 2 space 3 space 4 space 5 space here. Okay, and then here it will go to next line. So here, how do we call this in our program? We just call, for example, method 2 with, for example, 5. Okay, so what will happen? The method 2 will be, of course, then void. It doesn't have any return statement. When there is no return statement inside the method, then the type has to be void. Void means it doesn't return anything. If it doesn't return anything, then most probably it has to print something to the screen or write to a file or send something through network, okay, from internet or some other thing. So the output of the method has to go either to screen or to a hard disk or somewhere if it doesn't return anything, because it has to serve some purpose. And the purpose of this is just to print some numbers to the screen. So when we have a method which doesn't have any return statement, first of all, its type must be void. And here, when we call it, it's called alone. But if a method returns something, here there's a return statement, then the type of the method must be same as the value, the type of the value it returns. Here, k is an integer variable. Okay. Therefore, the type of the method should be integer. So in Python, we don't have any types in methods, in functions, but in Java, we must provide except one very special case that I will explain at the end of the semester. Except one very special case, all methods must have a type, either int or double or boolean, etc., etc., or char or string or something, or they have to be void. Is this okay? If a method doesn't return anything, its type has to be void. In that case, it's probably printing something to screen or writing to a file. Here we have an illustration of method calls. Here we are calling a method do this with an object. Anyway, this is not a static. This is a class object method. But anyway, this principle is same. When we have something like this, the program statements up to this point are executed, and then here at this point we have a method call. The method is called, and inside this method, do this method, there may be another method call. So the control of the program will continue until this point. These lines will be executed. When it comes to help me, it calls the other func method. For example, and then when the method is finished, it comes back and continues from where it left. When do this is finished, it returns back and continue from where it is left. So here, if there are some other statements, what happens? Assume that there are some other statements here. First, these statements are executed up to here, and then here we have a method call. This method one is called. These lines are executed. When it is finished, the returned value is the returned value replaces this method call. Assume that this returns, for example, 7. Okay, assume this returns 7. So here 7 comes, and 7 divided by 2 is executed, and the program continues with other lines. Then with other lines as well here. And then After some time, you have another method call. So after finishing these lines here, at this second method call, the control of the program goes here. It executes this. When it is finished, when method 2 is finished, and then it continues with the lines below the main method. And 1 second, I will take a glass of water. Sorry for the interruption. Okay, so let's analyze the return statement a little bit more. Return will contain either a single variable or object or an expression. It can be return k minus 1, for example. Okay, so this is processed, this is evaluated, executed, or computed, and then the value in this expression is returned. If a method does not return anything, if it does not have any return statement, its type has to be void. If a method returns something, then the type of the method must be exactly the same as the thing that it returns. For example, assume that I have here, for example, multiply by 1.5. K is an integer, but the multiplication of k is with a double number. Okay, so here it shouldn't be int but double. Okay, because the result of this expression is a double expression, not an integer expression, because 1.5 is not integer. Okay, therefore, since the expression here results as a double value, the type of the method must be double. And the value returned comes here, it is used, etc. Of course, it's a double. Probably I have to have here something like double, because this is a double value divided by a number will result as a double. Most probably, I will have a double variable that is assigned that expression. Okay, let's go to our programs and let's see what are here. I have here no return one, blah blah, some no return one. What does no return one do? I just named it no return one. The method is not named as no return one. What it does, it doesn't have any parameter. By the way, a method may have 0 or more parameters. No return one has no parameter, and no return 2 has 2 parameters. Okay, and no return 2 is called 3 times with 5 and 12, 25 and 12, and 14 and 14. Now let's examine this. What happens? Here at the beginning of our program, after defining a scanner object to read from keyboard, because here in new scanner we have system.in, therefore we have an object that can be used to input something from keyboard. We are calling the no return one method. What is no return one method? It is here. For J1, as long as less or equal to 10, increase J. So this will produce which values? 1, 2, 3, up to 10. Okay. Less or equal to 10. So 10 is a valid number. 10 less or equal to 10 is true. It will execute, and then J is increased. So this basically prints here inside. We see that it prints the value of J, as I did in the example a few minutes ago. It prints the value of J and a space And what are the values of j? 1 to 10. So 1 space, 2 space, 3 space, blah, blah, blah. 10 and space is printed in the for loop. And when it is finished, this is print. It's always on the same line. It goes to the next line. So let's run this program. Here we see our output, okay? 1 to 10. No return 1 has no parameter and has no return. It doesn't return anything. There is no return statement in the no return 1 method. Now we have no return 2 with 5 and 12. Let's see what no return 2 does. It gets two parameters. We named the parameters as n1 and n2. What it does, it starts with j is equal to n1. As long as j is less than or equal to n2, it increases j, the variable j. So for the first time, what are the values? It is 5 and 12. So what happens? It will start with 5. As long as it is less or equal to 12, it will print the value of j and space. So 5 space, 6 space, 7 space, blah, blah, 12 space are printed. And println will go to the next line here. Okay, for 5 and 12. So the second line is printed using this no return to method call. We have another no return to method call, 25 and 12. So what are the values for n1 and n2? n1 is 25, n2 is 12. Okay, 25 and 12 here. So when we go here, no return to n1 is 25, j is 25, n2 is 12, 25 less or equal to 12? No, without executing at all inside, it will quit and it will just print a space and then nothing, a new line. So the second line is printed at the second call of the no return to, okay, with parameters 25 and 12. This method call will just print an empty line, the third line on the output. And here we have 14 and 14. Both are 14. So here n1 is 14, n2 is 14, j is equal to 14. 14 less or equal to 14 is true. 14 and a space is printed. Then j is increased. J becomes 15. 15 less or equal to 14 is false. So it goes and prints a new line. It goes in the output to the next line. Okay, it goes to the next line. So the fourth line in the output is printed using the third method call of the no return to. No return 1 produces the first line, and no return 2 produce the three times call of the no return 2 will produce the second, third, and fourth lines. Here we have enter an integer number. Let's enter an integer number, 187, 1087, okay? Now here we have print digits method. We input a number. Let's continue. Oops. So now print digit. Let's examine the print digits method. Yeah, here is print digits. It doesn't return anything. It's still void. It's again void. And it first prints here. Be careful. It is print. Therefore, after printing the content, it doesn't go to the next line. It stays on the same line. What are we printing? Digits of and space, and the number is printed, and the space and R column and a space are printed. So up to here, that part is printed with this line. Here, the absolute value of the number is taken. Mat.abs takes the absolute value of the given number. If the number is negative, minus 25, mat.abs minus 25 will give me plus 25. It will give me a positive number. So even if the number is negative, with this line, it is converted to a positive number. If it is minus 5, it becomes plus 5. If it is plus 5 already, it remains as plus 5. Okay, it doesn't change. It doesn't change if the number is positive, but if the number is negative, then this statement makes it positive. And then here we have while number is greater than 0, we have a while loop. Print the modulus 10 of the number and divide the number by 10. What is modulus 10? It is the rightmost digit. Okay, digit of ones. Okay, the rightmost digit is printed with a space after it, and the number is divided by 10 slash equal 10 means divide the number itself by 10. So here the rightmost digit is printed and a space after it is printed, and then the rightmost digit is deleted. Okay, when we divide 1087, modulus of this by 10 is 7, the rightmost digit, and when we divide it by 10, we get 108. We get rid of the last digit, and we continue this as long as number is greater than 0. So we get 8, and then print here in the body of the while, get 0, print, get 1, and print. So it prints the digits of the number. The digits of this number are printed from right to left. Okay, from the least significant digit to most significant digit are printed with a space between them. And since this is a print statement only, it stays on the same line. 7 space, 8 space, 0 space, 1 space are printed. When the loop is finished, we have just system out println, which makes it go to the next line. Okay, this just produces and goes to the next line. So here we have print digits n. Here we have print digits minus blah blah some number. And now we know that we know what print digits do. It first converts the number to positive. So instead of processing minus 489,000 blah blah, it process plus 489,000 blah blah blah. Here, okay, inside the method, it converts the negative number to positive. If it's negative, then using the positive number, it does this. It prints the digits starting from the rightmost digit to the leftmost digit. So when the digits of this are printed, as we see, first 1 is printed, and then 5 is printed, 7, 9, 8, and 4 are printed. Okay. Now we have here, we had input n. N is 1087. Okay, we had input n. Here we have again no return 1, which just produces 1 to 10, which prints 1 to 10. Why I put here, the same method may be called many times. Here, for example, no return 2 is called 3 times with different parameters, and here no return 1 has no parameter, and we have called it again. It does something, which is in this case printing 1 to 10 with a space between them. And then we have here some digits. Now we have an assignment. We are calling some digits method with the value n, which is 1087. But the returned value is assigned to an integer variable. From this line, we can deduce that, we can understand that some digits returns an integer value. Let's look to the sum digits. Int sum digits. Okay. it gets a number, an integer number. Again, it converts that number to positive. And then after converting the number to positive number, if it is not positive already, then it initializes sum to 0. As long as the number is greater than 0, what it does, it takes modulus 10 of the number, which is the right. It takes the rightmost digit of the number, num. The rightmost digit is taken. Here, 7 is taken at the first, and then 8 will be taken, then 0 will be taken, and then 1 will be taken here with this expression. And each of these is added to sum. So here, the sum at the end, when the while loop is finished, will contain the sum of all digits. 7 plus 8, 15, plus 0, 15, plus 1, 16. So the result will be 16. And it will return the sum of digits, okay? The sum here, the variable sum here is used to contain the sum of digits. Of course, after getting the rightmost digit, the number num variable is divided by 10 to get rid of the last digit. When we divide 1087 to 10, we will get 108. When we divide 108 to 10, we will get only 10. When we divide 10 to 10, we will get 1. When we will divide 1 to 10, we will get 0. In Java, when we divide two numbers, like for example, 48 divided to 10, we will not get 4.8, we get just 4. The fractional part is removed if both operands of the division operator are integers. Okay, from this we will get this. If we have, for example, 4999 divided by 1000, what we will get? We will get 4. Remove 3 digits. The last 3 digits are removed. That get this. If we have, for example, 50, what we will get? We will get 49. Okay, because when we divide it to 50, the remainder. Sorry, not 40. This is not. Of course, when we divide it, this 49. Anyway, it is. I have to compute a little bit. 49 multiplied by 2, 98, 99. I will get 99 from here, for example. Not any. There is no fraction. When two integer numbers are divided, then the result is an integer value in which all the decimal part is skipped. So here, when we divide by 10, it is quite easy. Remove the last digit. And as long as the number is positive, greater than 0, continue this, which means that process all the digits, get all the digits here, add them to sum, and when the while loop is finished, the sum variable will contain the sum of all digits. Okay, is this understood? You are frequently doing things similar to this. So when we come back here, n, which was 1087, is given as parameter to sum digits method. Sum digit method returns us 16. Okay. Let's enlarge this. Sum digit variable contains 16. And we print this line, which is that line. Sum of digits of blah blah space is printed, and then the number n, which is 1087, is printed, and then space are printed, and then some digits are printed. Be careful. We use always plus. This is a string. To this string, append the number. When this type of thing happens, this n is an integer variable. The integer is automatically the string version of this integer is produced, and that string is concatenated to the end of this string, and then that string is concatenated to the end of that, and then some digits, which is an integer variable, is temporarily converted to string, and that string is also concatenated. So this is a string expression. Okay, string plus integer plus string plus integer. Since the first one is string, then this plus operator becomes a string concatenation operator. Therefore, this n is automatically converted to string by Java, appended, and then this string is also appended to the end of this one. And then for this plus, the previous part is a string. Therefore, some digit is automatically converted to a string and concatenated. The result is a whole string, and that string is printed, which is that line. Okay, that line. Here we have another println, sum of digits of blah blah. We have a number here. I'm using the same number. And here we have called sum digits. So in this expression, we have, let's start from the left side, string plus a number. Therefore, this number is converted to string, appended to the end of this string. Then there is another string with this plus operator. This string is appended to the end of the string made from this expression. So here we have a string which is that part up to here. Okay. And then what happens? We have a method call. Okay. So since there's a method call, first the method will be called. Some digits method will be called with 48,751. Some digits is called with that number 48,000 blah blah. It returns an integer value. Sum is an integer. It returns an integer value. So what it returns? 25. So with this number, some digits is called and it returns 25. So 25 comes and replaces this method call. Okay. Here now we have, for this blue area, we have 25 after the method is executed. When the method is executed, it returns 25. So we have 25, and then we have plus the string. Here we have a string plus 25, which is the value returned by some digits. 25 is automatically converted to string, appended to the end of this. Therefore, at the end we have this whole string, and it is printed on that line. Okay. So we can have method calls like this in an expression. Here we have an expression of strings, string concatenation expressions, but inside we have a method call. First, the method call is performed, a value comes here, and then that is converted to string and appended to the end of that string. Here we have some digits, and inside parentheses we have another some digits. If we have this kind of things, we can have a method call, and inside that we may have another method call. Let's write some other example. Assume that I have M1, M2, and M3 are all methods. Assume that these are methods. Okay. So what I can have, for example, int x is equal to, I can call M1, and I can have call M2 as a parameter, 24, and M3 2,8. Assume that M2 has only one parameter. Okay, it has only one parameter, and M2 has two parameters multiplied by M2 4. So what I have here, let's assume that we have this. Here inside M1, there is one expression, which is the first parameter. Then after comma, I have another expression. Okay, so from this line, I can understand that M1 has two parameters. This is the first parameter. This is the second parameter. How this is executed? When we have this type of line, what happens? First of all, in order to call M1, the parameters must be ready. In order to make the first parameter ready, what we call, first of all, let's say order of method calls. First, we have to process this expression. So this is called first. Okay, let's go here. One, this is done. Now we have a value here. M2 with parameter 24 will return something. Okay, the returned value from this method call will come and replace that. But the second one is this one. In order to do this, we have to first call this one. So second, this is called M2, M3 with 2 and 8 is called. A value comes here, so that the returned value from M3 replaces that. But in order to perform the multiplication, I need to have that value evaluated. So what happens? The third time M2 with 4 is called. Then fourth, this multiplication is done next. Okay, this is done. We have a value here. This is called. A value comes back here. Now we have some value here. This is called. Another value comes here. Now we have a value from the second method call that comes here. We have a value from this method call here. Now we have both values ready. So what we do, we perform the multiplication. Okay, this multiplication operation is done next. After this multiplication of expression is done, now we have a single value here. Now we are ready to call M1. Okay. Now this can be called. Is this understood? If you have multiple method calls as either as parameters or in an expression, here we have an expression and here we have a method call, then we go step by step. Here, first of all, the first parameter must be ready. That method is called. It returns some value. And then here we have the second parameter is an expression. The second parameter of M1 is an expression. The second argument of M1 is an expression. The value of this expression will go and replace the parameter and will continue. Therefore, I need to have a value, a single value here. Therefore, M3 with 2 and 8 is called. A value comes and replaces here. M2 with argument 4 is called. A value comes and replaces here. Then, after these two are called, the multiplication is performed. After the multiplication is performed, I have a value here. From the first method call, I had that value already here. So my both arguments of M1 method call are ready. Then M1 is called at the end. Okay. Is this understood? This is quite important that you understand this. Of course, in this course, we will not do this type of complicated stuff, but in your future programming life, you will probably write much more complicated things than these. This is just to give you an idea. If you have something like that, you have to do it in order. We can have, for example, instead of this, we can have system.out.println, for example. And if we have something like this, let's put a parenthesis of the print. And here, let's say plus, and let's put a string here, some string plus this. Assume that M1 method returns an integer value. So what happens? We have here M1 with parentheses. Let's put this down. This parenthesis for this one, this parenthesis for this one, this is for that one. So therefore, this parenthesis is closest this one. This is the parenthesis of the println. Okay. So what we are doing here, we are printing a string plus a method call. Okay. Here we have a complete method call. M1 is called with 2 parameters. The first parameter is this, and the second parameter is an expression which contains 2 more method calls. So in order to get a value from here, all these are done. We have a value that comes and replaces that one. And since we have a string plus, assume that this is a number coming back from M1 function call or method call, that is converted to string and is appended to the end of the string, and they are printed. Okay. So if you have multiple method calls in an expression or in a method parameters, then they have to be executed or evaluated step by step. Okay, this is the end of my lecture for today.